Looking back from the vantage point of 81 years, life looks very different than it did when I was 30, 40, or even 60. From here, the mountains I once thought I had to climb look like small, manageable hills. And the things I spent countless sleepless nights worrying about have vanished like mist in the morning sun. If I could reach back through the decades, pull my younger self aside, and whisper just one thing into his ear, I know exactly what it would be. It's a truth that sounds simple, but it's the hardest thing for a man in the prime of his life to actually hear. Today I want to share that one thing with you, because while I can't go back and tell my younger self, I can tell you. And understanding this now, regardless of your age, will change the way you experience every day you have left. When I was in my 30s and 40s, I was a man of action. I thought that being a man meant being a builder, a provider, and a conqueror. I lived in what I now call the when-then trap. You know the one. When I get that promotion, then I'll be happy. When I pay off the mortgage, then I'll finally relax. When the kids are out of college, then I'll take that trip with my wife. I spent 40 years of my life preparing to live, treating the present moment as nothing more than a hurdle I had to jump over to get to some imagined future of peace. I was always racing toward a finish line that kept moving. Every time I achieved a goal, the satisfaction lasted for a few days, and then I was already looking for the next mountain. I thought that by conquering the world, I was securing my happiness. But standing here at 81, I understand now that life is not a destination you arrive at. It is not a trophy you collect at the end. It is the process itself. It is the texture of the air on a Tuesday afternoon. It is the sound of the rain against the window while you're working. If you are always looking at the horizon, you will miss the flowers at your feet, and eventually you will realize you've spent your entire life in transit, never actually arriving anywhere. If I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be this. Stop treating your life like a problem to be solved and start treating it like a gift to be witnessed. I used to think that being a man meant having all the answers and keeping everything under absolute control. I wasted so much energy fighting things I couldn't change: the economy, the opinions of my neighbors, the mistakes of my past. I thought my anxiety was a form of caring, but it was actually just a form of suffering. Now I understand that true strength isn't in control. It's in presence. It's in the ability to sit in a quiet room and feel that you are enough exactly as you are, without needing to achieve another thing to prove your worth to a world that isn't even paying as much attention as you think it is. Society teaches us from a very young age that our value as men is tied to our productivity. We are told to be high-value men, which in our modern world usually translates to how much we can accumulate, how much we can earn, and how much power we can wield. We are taught to be machines of output. But at 81, I promise you, when you sit in the quiet of your later years, you won't remember the overtime hours. You won't remember the status symbols or the brand of the car you drove in 1995. What you will remember are the micro moments. You will remember the way the light hit the kitchen table while you had coffee with someone you loved. You will remember the specific weight of your child's hand in yours when they were small. You will remember the feeling of a cool breeze after a long day of work. My younger self thought that making it meant reaching the top of the mountain. My older self knows that making it is just being aware of the climb while it's happening. The summit is just a place where you stand for a moment before you have to come back down. The climb is the life. There is a freedom that comes with age. But the tragedy is that most men wait until their bodies are failing to claim it. That freedom is the realization that most of the things we fear are ghosts. We fear failure. We fear judgment. We fear being alone. But after 8 decades, I've seen that failure is just a lesson with a different name. Judgment is just noise from people who are also afraid and trying to hide it. and solitude. Solitude is not an enemy to be avoided. It is the laboratory where you find your soul. If I had known this at 40, I would have taken more risks. I don't mean financial risks, though. Maybe those too. I mean emotional risks. I would have told people I loved them more often. I would have been more vulnerable. I would have spent less time trying to be respected and more time being authentic. I see so many men today chasing shadows. They are exhausted, they are stressed, and they are lonely even in a crowd. They think they are doing it for their families. And while that's partly true, often they are just running away from the quiet. They are afraid that if they stop, they will realize they've been heading in the wrong direction. They are afraid that the silence will tell them they've wasted their time. If that's you, listen to me. It is never too late to change the direction of your heart. You don't have to wait until your hair is white and your joints ache to understand that the good old days are happening right now, in this very second. One of the greatest burdens I carried for a long time was the weight of my own mistakes. I used to lay awake at night replaying things I said or did 20 years prior. I was my own harshest judge. If I could go back, I would tell that younger version of me to practice the art of self-forgiveness. You are going to fail. You are going to hurt people, and you are going to be hurt. You are going to make bad investments and trust the wrong people. That is the price of admission to the human experience. Do not carry those failures like stones in your pockets. The man I am today is built on the ruins of the man I was yesterday. I am grateful for the cracks in my history, because as the saying goes, that's how the light gets in. Without those mistakes, I wouldn't have the perspective I have now. I also want to talk to you about the people in your life. We often take for granted the people who are always there. We assume they will always be there. But at 81, the departures become more frequent. If I could tell my younger self one thing about relationships, it would be this. Pay attention to the people who love you when you have nothing to offer them but your company. Those are your people. Everything else, the professional networks, the friends who disappear when the money or the status goes, that's just window dressing. Invest your time in the souls that see you, not the eyes that just watch you. There is a specific habit that would have saved me decades of stress if I had started it sooner. I call it the daily pause. Several times a day, regardless of how busy I am, I now stop. I take a breath and I ask myself, if this were my last day, would I want to spend it being this frustrated? Would I want my last moments to be spent being this rushed or this distracted? The answer is almost always no. That simple question has a magical way of stripping away the trivial and leaving only what is essential. It pulls you out of the future and brings you back to the now. And the now is the only place where you can actually feel the sun on your face or hear the truth in your heart. As you grow older, your world naturally begins to shrink. Your physical circle gets smaller. Your energy wanes, but your internal world has the capacity to expand infinitely. I have found more adventure in my library and in my own thoughts at 81 than I did traveling the world in my youth. But you have to build that inner world while you are still young. You have to learn how to be alone without being lonely. You have to learn how to enjoy your own company. If you are constantly running from yourself into work or alcohol or digital distractions, you will find the silence of old age terrifying. But if you learn to sit with yourself now, you will find that silence is a sanctuary. To the younger men watching this, those of you in the heat of the battle, I'm not telling you to stop working hard. I'm not telling you to abandon your ambitions. I'm telling you to change your why. Work hard because it feels good to use your talents. Build things because the world needs builders. But do not do it because you think it will finally make you worthy. You were born worthy. The achievement is just the decoration on the cake. The cake itself is your existence. Looking back, I see that life is a series of deaths and rebirths. You lose a job and a new identity is born. You lose a loved one and a new depth of soul is forged. I have been many different men in this one lifetime. I have been the arrogant young man, the stressed middle-aged provider, the grieving widower-hour, and now the quiet observer. Each version was necessary to reach the next. Don't be so afraid of the changes. Don't cling so tightly to who you think you are supposed to be. If I could reach across time and touch my younger shoulder, I would just say, "Relax, son. You're doing better than you think. The things you're terrified of aren't going to kill you, and the things you're chasing aren't going to save you. Just be here. Truly be here." Thank you for listening to an old man's reflections. If this message made you stop and breathe for even a second, please give this video a like. It helps this perspective reach other men who are still lost in the race. Don't forget to subscribe to join our community and leave a comment below, sharing one thing you would tell your younger self. Every wrinkle on my face is a map of a journey I survived, and I promise you the view from the end is beautiful, provided you keep your eyes open. I'll see you in the next video. Keep your heart open, your mind present, and your soul at peace. I lived in what I now call the when-then trap. You know the one. When I get that promotion, then I'll be happy. When I pay off the mortgage, then I'll finally relax. When the kids are out of college, then I'll take that trip with my wife. I spent 40 years of my life preparing to live, treating the present moment as nothing more than a hurdle I had to jump over to get to some imagined future of peace. I was always racing toward a finish line that kept moving. Every time I achieved a goal, the satisfaction lasted for a few days, and then I was already looking for the next mountain. I thought that by conquering the world, I was securing my happiness. But standing here at 81, I understand now that life is not a destination you arrive at. It is not a trophy you collect at the end. It is the process itself. It is the texture of the air on a Tuesday afternoon. It is the sound of the rain against the window while you're working, if you are always looking at the